Good evening. We're starting a new game today, Aragami. Not the first time I've played this game, but it's been quite a while. Bear with me as I gain my bearings. I think I just started the game. Once alerted... Oh, that was a loading screen? Okay. Aragami. What is this? Where am I? Who's there? Come to me. Follow my voice. It's a fox. I'm a fox. In game and in real life. I'm here. Yamiko? It worked. The ritual worked. A real Aragami. I really did it. Foxes are really sneaky creatures when it suits us. My name is Yamiko. I'm the one who invoked you. What is your name? How do you feel? I guess an Aragami really is a blank slate. Aragami? Sorry, am I going too fast? You are an Aragami, a vengeful spirit summoned through an ancient ritual. I wasn't sure that it would work. Vengeful? Yes. A clan called Kaiho. They killed my people. They took our land. They have destroyed everything. We lost the war, and they razed it all. Kaiho. I'm one of the few who survived their attacks. They imprisoned me far away in the city's temple. What you're looking at now is just a projection. I don't know how long they'll keep me for, or if they'll let me live. You are my only hope, Aragami. Right. What am I supposed to do? For starters, you won't get far without a weapon. Follow me. Hands me a gun. The gate is locked. How will you get through? Even any other shadow in the environment, press R1 to teleport there. The runes on your cave show your current essence level. If you're low on essence, you can't shadow leave. You can use shadow essence. I didn't know Aragami could do that. If that's the case, then be careful in the light. It'll drain your energy. Try to keep to the shadows. You can recover shadow essence that way. You need shadow essence to use your abilities. Intense light sources will drain your energy, while staying in the shadows will refill it. You think your powers could help us here? Nice. What about this? Perfect. Come, there's something here for you. Not an ominous altar at all. I like how I already had the sheath. Yes, good. This will help. Watch out, it's one of them. Keep still. Kaiho, the Army of Light. Stealth kill is square. And then I eat the body. The amount of light around you affects how visible you are. Stay in the shadows and crouch to become less visible. Bright light sources can give away your position very quickly. Kaiho soldiers are light adepts. Their swords are imbued with light essence. Don't even think about confronting them directly. Snacks for later indeed. I like how I did like a little spin when I stabbed him, presumably purely to flex. An aerial kill? Joke's on you, all of my kills are aerial kills. Is someone there? No. What are you gonna do, check?
Follow me.
That's what I thought. I want to say that there are secrets in this game, but I can't remember if that's actually the case. Town is miles away. Why ask us to guard a damn village of ghosts? Do we even know why we're here? Captain Yuki's death. Captain Yuki's murder. That's what started this mess. Come on, you know this. He was ambushed in the forest, remember? Killed by an enemy assassin. It could have happened here. It could happen right now, right where you're standing. We have to be vigilant. Now more than ever. I appear to have a kunai of some description. What was that about? I don't know. No. And I'm dead. So yeah, that's what happens if you get caught. I'll try not to let that happen. Here you'll know that kills people. But I'm hungry. And he's dead. I think what happens is whenever I get a stealth kill, I get a kunai, if memory serves. I might be mistaken. I don't think I can just spam them. Mistakes were made. Okay, so technically speaking, I don't actually have to kill every living creature. I can just, like, be chill. And I'm dead. We doing a little sneaky. Stealth. They can't raise the alarm if I eat the body. That is what stealth looks like. Okay, I could have done a bit better, but I also could have done worse. I also like how there's like, sort of like acknowledgement for different ways to do it. Like never detected, no kills, all kills. You cannot create shadows on brightly lit surfaces. I'm sure it'll come back to me in time. Ooh, a fox. She's so pretty. I like her. This again. Yamiko, I saw something. A vision. I saw it too. The ritual must have created some kind of connection between us. And I had another when I woke up, just before I met you. What does it mean? It means that foxes are the most trustworthy animals of all. Who knows? There aren't many writings about the ritual I used to invoke you. Hopefully we'll find out soon. Let's get moving. Can't have you evaporating at dawn. Okay, wait, what? Oh, didn't I tell you? Your body's made of shadows. If a ray of sunlight touches it... At this point, I'm just glad that you told me at all. Yeah, I'm sorry. Shadow creation. Okay, so I can make my own shadow. Okay. Create shadows so you can climb anything doing that. See that temple? It's where we're headed. But yeah, I played this game, but it was like so far, what? So long ago that I've basically forgotten all of it. I heard that they're keeping an animal there that might be able to help us. animal? Yes, apparently it has something to do with the magic they used to entrap me. You have to find it, Aragami. Is it okay if I call you Aragami? I suppose. What's that noise? Nothing. You didn't see anything. Nothing at all. Very trustworthy noises, one might say. Cannot create shadow in areas of bright illumination. They spotted me. If only my enemies were not armed with lightsabers. This would be substantially easier. Alright, new plan. What if I just use actual Fox Stealth? Sorry, I got distracted by loot. It was working just fine up until that point. This is fine. I just have to iterate, that's all. If skill points. These must be a thing that I have from like my last playthrough. I wonder if this way I can like restart the whole thing. Like legit, I want to like restart from scratch. I only saw like a chapter select and a continue. Is there like a... What is Nightfall, even? Oh, that's an expansion. We don't need that. Hit over the store page. I don't know if I actually can just straight up restart it. Oh well. Apparently there was a skill tree, but I've already got a lot of stuff from it. Which is probably something I should double check then. I've got Shadow Leap. I can cast shadows. I can make the bodies disappear. Summon a monstrous beast from the shadows to erase a target from the physical realm and recover one use of your equipped shadow technique. That sounds like something I'd be into. The Raven will scout the level and show you your objective. Mark a target, show all hidden scrolls. Wait, how do I use these? I've got all these skills unlocked, but I don't remember how to use them. Also, I don't know how to delete the save. Hi, excuse me, sir. Pardon me. If I could do that, like, Shadow Beast thing, I could, like, use way more kunai, I think. That'd be nice. I legit don't remember how to do it, though, is the only thing. I think I might have to unlock it, even though I'm technically... Even though I technically already have it. I'm not sure. I know that I've got kunai already. I call shenanigans. I was pressing triangle. Alright, one thing at a time. Also, jokes aside, I'm genuinely not particularly good at stealth. So please bear with me. I wonder if it's like a stealth kill thing that lets me eat people with the shadows? That'd be nice. I am seeing like a couple of extra buttons pop up. I've just been kind of like mashing the stab button. Oh, there we go. Alright, I'm on board with this. So I guess if I approach somebody undetected in shadow, I can pull their soul into hell, or whatever I just did to them. Pardon me, sir? I'm using the horn, please, and thank you. And he parried me. This is good though, I'm learning. I'm figuring it out. Or remembering, as the case may be. Turn around. Thank you. Oh no. My character is making some interesting decisions concerning which animation to use for killing people. Not gonna blame the game though. This reminds me of Metal Gear. Kind of same, except for me, Metal Gear is a game where like I run around with a katana, dicing people into kill. And really, that expectation is not serving me well. It's like, Ariel, no, wrong Metal Gear. I think they spotted me. This is still a tutorial, I'm pretty sure, by the way. I'm just really bad at this. Granted, I did set it to hard, which might have been a mistake in and of itself. He died from blowing the horn. It wasn't an assassin. Okay, you know what? Perhaps what I do is I go back and I set this to normal, because I don't think I can handle this on hard. Single player. Set it to normal. Back to chapter, let's say 2. I was like, oh yeah, I played this game a decade ago. I know what I'm doing. I don't. I really don't. There's a fox, and that's all I really need to know. Thank you for the head pats. Yeah, I vaguely recall that, like, using kunai and then, like, eating people with the snake to get the kunai back was, like, my bread and butter the first time I played this game. Yeah, keeping an animal there that might be able to help us, that's probably the bird. And that's probably the bird mentioned in the skills menu. Mistakes may have been made. Let's find them as long as they don't find me. They know where the bodies are, but not where my body is. And mine is the only one I really have to worry about them stabbing, if you think about it. Oh, it's a dragon, not a snake. Of course. Yeah, this is definitely a lot easier when you lower the difficulty level. Like, substantially so. Stealthy. Someone there? No. Guard a talisman, guard a bird, guard this door, guard that door. Guard, 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 when will we see some action? I don't know why they're so worried about a caged bird. It was self-defense, they attacked me first. I had no choice. That's like 3 cases of preemptive self-defense. Make that 4. I wonder how many courts would actually, like, hear me out on that one. Finally, let's free you to move on. Yeah, hard mode definitely felt like, okay, seriously, like, go in with, like, a plan. And it's like, I have neither a plan nor muscle memory. Made it into the Yiga hideout. Fair comparison, honestly. Now I'm remembering my disastrous attempts to, like, actually sneak through the Yiga hideout in Breath of the Wild. Uh-oh. Not enough muscle? I can lift like 20 pounds, thank you very much. Close enough. Yeah, my attempt to get into Yiga Hideout in Tears of the Kingdom at least was, explosive. I found him. He was scared. R.I.P. that guy on the left. I like the bird. Whenever I see somebody, like, help a bird into the air by, like, flinging their arm like that, I always just imagine what would happen if, like, the bird didn't catch on in time and just kind of, like, got chucked. These visions, what do they mean? I don't know. It felt like I was there. I think I was using... Is it light essence? If you already use shadow essence, you can't be a light adept too. And you were born this evening, remember? But if I'm not seeing memories, then what am I seeing? Whose visions are these? I'm sorry, I don't know. Maybe we can figure it out on the way to the city. Right, and how can the Raven help us? He's been keeping an eye on Kaiho's activities. He should be able to lead us to the talismans. What are talismans? Talismans? The magic seal that the Kaiho used to imprison me takes its power from 6 talismans. We need them all to break it. So we have to get all of them before rescuing you? Yes. And thanks to this Raven, it won't take all night to find them, hopefully. Yamiko, why do they keep this Raven locked up? Maybe they didn't want it falling into the wrong hands, like ours. Why didn't they just... kill it? Who knows? But it's really they did. Indeed, I say, while dead. This is fine. Master of Stealth. Sure is an awful lot of self-defense happening. Oh, ow, ow. Unfortunately, even if the enemy was their swing, I kind of just am stunned and can't really do much about it, it seems, which is unfortunate. That guy canonically didn't see anything. Okay, so it can be a dragon or a snake. But why can't it be a fox? This feels a bit like discrimination. Granted, I am a fox, so like... Like, with the mask and everything. Incidentally, this isn't the character's default outfit. Normally he just kind of looks like a generic, like, edgy ninja. You unlock the fox outfit specifically for beating the game. Alright, we'll call it a draw. This is fine. I'm just imagining somebody who's like actually like good at stealth games watching my gameplay. Perhaps like in a VOD like 5 years down the line. And just shaking their head in like disappointed bewilderment. But I just ate a man's face, so hopefully that person is at least somewhat qualified. Oh wait, did I eat a man's face if like a dragon did it on my orders? Oh, there's just like a thing here. Once again, loot proves to be my downfall. Yeah, it's actually slightly topically relevant. I accidentally snuck up behind somebody the other day. I don't remember if I told this story on stream yet or not. The other day I decided to get some takeout. It had been a while, I wanted a treat, that kind of thing. And I live in an apartment building, so like... You can't come in unless somebody who lives here lets you in. So like I order food and like the delivery person like arrives. And they call me and I'm just like, okay, I'll let you in. So I come down to like the main floor where like they've already been let in by somebody, but there's also like a relatively large group coming through the door that they're distracted by. So while they're looking at the door, I just kind of like walk up right next to them. And I just don't say anything and I wait for them to notice me. I gave them a little bit of a startle. And like, honestly, I don't really feel bad at all. It was kind of really funny. It's like, in real life, I'm actually quite sneaky. In games, not so much. Yoink is for me. I found a path through the mountain. Follow the foxes. You can trust foxes. Oh, we're not following the foxes, I think. There we go. We're going around the foxes. This woman isn't trustworthy, it seems. What's over here? You know, it occurs to me that, like... I'm able to place a trav at your current location. But how do I equip it? Because I think I can only use the skill that's, like, actually depicted on my cape. Oh hey, never detected. We take those. Though it did call me out for taking more than one try. Chimes of the past, I think. We're reaching the cemetery's entrance, or exit, as the case may be. Korosu says the first talisman is here. There are 5 left after this. Korosu? The Maven. I decided to call him Korosu. Suits him, right? Sure. Doesn't feel right. What was that? Nothing. I like the way that they just, like, ragdoll when I hit them with the kunai. You're gonna go to sleep? Rest well. I hope you have a wonderful night. Oh, pardon me, sir. You didn't see anything. Nothing to worry about. Correct. Death is painless. There's nothing to fear. Now granted, they might not be dead in whatever, like, shadowy hell dimension that thing dragged them to, but, like, I didn't do it, so it's not really on my heart. That guy got his face eaten, so he's probably dead. Screw that guy in particular. Oh, you look an awful lot like a bot. Proceed through the graveyard. How long has it been now since we got here? I don't even want to know. Feels like decades. I bet my family doesn't even remember what I look like. If you have people waiting back home, why didn't you go back after the war? When the Nishoku Empire wiped the Light Brotherhoods off the map, we came back stronger. But can't you see this peace is tenuous? One slip in conflict could begin again. We can't let that happen. If only we all had your determination. Those sound like the words of, like, dastardly cultists that I should preemptively kill in self-defense. Like, if I wasn't morally in the right, would, like, you know, serpents and like dragons made out of shadows not drag people to hell on like my behalf. Like clearly I'm the good person here. Oh, whoops.
You know? Huh? 何やろ?
I didn't want to wait for their full conversation again. You didn't see anything. Damn. You know, funny thought occurs to me. Because technically I don't leave a body behind when I die. Even the person who kills me, if they like do so as I'm ducking around a corner like that, might not actually realize that they've done so. And would like accordingly spend the rest of their life in like paranoia. Perhaps not the stealthiest choice I could have made in that particular circumstance. This is fine. Peak assassin gameplay. With a hint of Scooby-Doo. Uh-oh. This is fine. I call shenanigans, that one clearly went over my head. Like most explanations. I really am treating this like a stealth action game when it really is just a stealth game. Oh shit, pardon me. I think my first kunai missed and hit this person. Alright. Close enough. I think I just accidentally skipped a tutorial. This is fine. What could go wrong? He didn't need those kidneys. Oh. If you think about it, like if you really think about it, but like if you don't think about it too hard, technically what I'm doing to people is like preventing them from getting cancer down the line. Like, this is unambiguously a good thing, I think. This is fine. We're gonna take a 5-minute break here. Please use this time to refill your beverage, go to the bathroom. Anything that would take about 5 minutes. I will see you shortly. I return. Also, whenever I take focus off of this window and then put it back on, it makes that noise. Okay, maybe not every time, but at least more than once. Now, I forget what I was up to, but this guy probably doesn't live through it. So we'll start there and kind of like improvise after that. Pardon me, sir. Oh, I didn't even realize that there were two people here. That could have been embarrassing. Uh-oh. I literally did nothing that they knew about. They just chopped me with a lightsaber first, asked questions never. Granted, I can't think of very many questions they might ask that aren't answered by me evaporating into shadows when struck with light, but still. It's the principle of the matter. If I just hang out here, they surely won't find me. This is fine. Oh, thank you for the head taps. I'd say something like, oh, they make me stealthier, but really I don't think there's any saving me. Also, congratulations on being first. I enjoy that I can hide in the shadows caused by me, like, dragging somebody's soul to hell. It just feels so delightfully unnecessary, if that makes sense. Somebody there? No. If somebody was there, you'd be dead. Oh, wait. Maybe you were onto something. That guy over there is like... It's my job to guard the shed, not to worry about people, you know, being killed in front of me. You know, I'm pretty sure I don't need to dissolve this guy's body. He's like halfway there on his own. Also, where the blade actually went felt somewhat personal. Oh, hey, Fox. I actually forget what these shrines are for. I think that might have been the thing that was in the tutorial thing that I accidentally skipped. I think they might be checkpoints. So, this is where they put it. Couple of bells. And then we exploded. This again. It felt different this time. Definitely different. That was my childhood. Your childhood? I didn't expect this. It must be another side effect of the ritual. So that girl, it was you? Yes, those bells were my father's. You just watched him and my mother being murdered by light adepts. Light adepts? From the Kaiho army? No, this was before Kaiho. For aeons, these lands have been assaulted by light brotherhoods. Taihara, Saigosin, Kaiho, one after the other. We always managed to hold them back until the day Kaiho came. In the end, they're all the same. Merciless murderers, callous killers of young and old alike. Yamiko? Ah, I'm sorry. This shrine was built to honor my mother and father, whose bodies were never found. Those men, those killers, didn't leave a shred of them behind. Nothing but these bells. That memory. I felt the fear, the pain. I'm sorry for your loss, Yamiko. Thank you, Aragami. We have to press on. Try wearing the bells like a bangle. You might find them useful. Right, but I'll give them back when I find you. Thank you. We have officially strapped bells to our stealthy ninja assassin. Careful, somebody's coming. This might be a good opportunity. Use the bells to draw his attention, then perhaps we can slip past. Yes, of course, slip past. As one does. We got the talisman. Let's go back and find the trail to the forest. I don't think I can vault this fence if there's barbs on it. Unless I do that. This guy isn't a fox. Probably isn't very trustworthy. I need essence. I may have mentioned before, but like, I've always really enjoyed Tori aesthetically. I wonder what all these fox statues mean. Isn't the fox the symbol of Kyoryu's royal family? Maybe you're right. This means this is the royal crypt. We could be standing on the graves of Nishoku's leaders, the ones responsible for the deaths of thousands. Probably. What are you thinking? I'm thinking you better pick a grave to take a dump on. Ah. You shall not. How dare they? You are not treating foxes with the respect that we are due. It's okay. I'll correct your behavior. You will become good children. I think that guy over there is about to find a body. That's fine, though. Excuse me, sir. I did not have to kill them, but they were going to be rude to people who know that foxes are the best, so I had to do something about it. Think I can make my skills generate faster? It says I have 6 and that this costs 4. Why can't I get it? Maybe I need like a specific scroll for it or something? There's like a pixel there where I can teleport, I think. There we go. Wait, I've already been here. I can tell because people are dead. He wasn't though, so maybe I haven't been here. I've always liked foxes. My mother used to sing a song about them when I was a child. Yep, fair enough. I suppose that was in fact a complete thought. Yeah, I may have mentioned before, but I've always really liked Tori. Orosu says they keep the next talisman in a cave deep in the forest. Be careful. I've heard many ghost stories about these woods. I am a ghost. This is fine. Bro is the strongest man to ever live. Keeping like a proper bow, like a proper bow like drawn and like knocked for any amount of time takes a ridiculous amount of strength. Like using a bow at all in the first place takes a ridiculous amount of strength. Holding it like that guy is legitimately like Superman. They blocked the path. That barrier must be linked to an orb of light essence. I'm sure we'll be able to get through if you destroy it. Well, as a fox, I am quite good at destroy, so... Uh-oh. I will say, their oral health is immaculate. Their teeth are just as bright as their swords.
Emma?
This is fine. This shadow kill thing reminds me a bit of The Darkness. The comic book slash video game series where like you're full of snakes that hate life. Funnily enough, I've only ever played the second Darkness game, not the first one. It was entertaining, I suppose. This place is familiar. Have you ever seen that thing? The talisman? Nope, don't much care to. What do you think? I heard the generals and captains use some rare magic to create them. The same magic that's affecting their health even now. Gives me chills just thinking about it. Aren't you even a little curious, though? You heard what happened to Captain Yuki, right? He was killed because the magic made him vulnerable. Nobody wants to be near those things. Wow. I still wonder what it looks like, though. Dana. Dana. I don't think I actually understand the reference that you're making when you say laughing jar like that. I apologize. Dark Souls 2? Ah. It has been a long, long time since I played that game. Oh, there's somebody there. That's not good. Excuse me, sir. You didn't see anything. You especially didn't see this coming. Uh-oh. Nope. I wasn't fast enough. That's not good. This guy just straight up doesn't care. I appreciate his donation to my kunai stockpile. Is that person an archer taking beat on me? It looks like they're shooting something that's like flashing red. Interesting. Don't mind me. I am very sneaky. Like, actually, what is that thing? Also, what are you shooting at? Weird. Anyway. Oh, it's her doll. That's my precious doll. The only memento that I have of my mother. She made it for me. It's an effigy of an ancient heroine from our clan, the Shirokitsu. It inspired me to keep going no matter what, even through all the years I've spent in this place. You lived here? Unfortunately. After the attack, I was too afraid to go back to town. They might have been waiting for me. I had nowhere else to go. I thought I'd never trust anybody ever again. Shirokitsu literally means white fox. Handle the doll with care, will you? I will. Yamiko. Yes? Also, her name basically just means, like, darkness girl. These talismans, why are they being guarded so carefully? You said Kaiho used them to imprison you. I've seen tens of guards so far, and we have just 2 talismans. Why are they throwing men at this? You see, I was very close to the Empress. I was with her when the Kaiho attacked. She's strong. Many considered her a goddess because of her immense power. A goddess? Yes. Remember when I said that there are others imprisoned here with me? The Empress herself is one of them. Kaiho underestimated her when they attacked. Their leader said he used this filthy talisman magic to seal the temple. And now they're guarding the whole place, afraid that somebody might release her. Even though they couldn't destroy the Empress back then, they've been looking for ways to do so ever since they captured her. This is just one of the reasons we need to hurry. You're right. We've wasted enough time already. There's a secret passage back here. I always made sure to have an escape route. Over here, follow me. Yoink. I remember this place being far bigger. Maybe I have to get this first. There we go. Oh, I can hold down circle and change what I've got equipped. Okay. I should double check what skills I have. Temporary invisibility. Reveal enemies through walls and opaque surfaces. Kunai and trap. Alright. Oh shoot. I could also pick up summon a decoy that explodes. And blind people. Oh, that was close. I suppose you weigh more than I did when I was a kid. Lady, I'm made out of incorporeal shadows. Do you know how these orbs work?
Yuki.
I heard something about it once. Captain Yuki was the one that made them. Really? How do they create light lessons like that? Great. The orbs don't create it. They're made of a rare mineral that absorbs light essence during the day. During the night, that essence produces the glow that you see. A mineral? I thought that they were just magic crystal balls or something. This is basic stuff, man. It's the same mineral our weapons are made of. Even those with barely any light experience can command it with ease. I see. Wait, what? My sword? Please swap my shift, Captain Hikaru. Well, that was really easy. It flushed nerds. I just gotta make sure to maintain a stockpile of shadow energy for that. Uh-oh. I'll just do that again. No reason not to expect it to work a second time. Sorry, I'm just looking at his fingers and how they're like clipping into his arm. I have been being harassed by the fingers on my work in progress model. I want to see how other people do them. This ability feels almost too good. I just put it down, make a noise, run, and then leave them to explode. Well, I'm not complaining. Was there? No one? Yeah, being able to like regenerate Shadow Essence on the fly and kill somebody and hide the body all at once is kind of insane. I am very a fan. heard something. I just had a thought. What if I... Can I hit them from, like, down there from up here? No, I cannot. I'm getting paranoid. Gaslighting isn't real, you're just crazy. This guy's just like, I don't care. Pardon me? Consume. I almost feel like I shouldn't be getting away with this, but then I remember that I'm a fox and that I can get away with anything if I want. And then this all just starts to feel a lot more like the natural order of things. I mean, I'm not even really stacking the rules per se, I'm just playing by them. The closest thing to cheating that I could be considered to have done is, like, lower the difficulty from hard to normal. And I suppose, starting with skill points from a completed run. Someone there? No? Get sucked, nerd. I like that I can kill them even when they're on guard. Someone there? No. Okay, maybe. You were right. Uh-oh. Mistakes were made. That was not kunai. But I was able to activate it after I died, and I'm all the way back here. Oh dear. Well, these things happen. Oh, that even gets rid of, bodies that are already dead. This is fine. Stealth. Also stealth. What? I didn't hit that button. Weird. Uh-oh. There's gotta be like some kind of like weird interference thing going on with my controller. That keeps happening. It's usually not that big of a deal, but it does keep happening. I like how I got away with that. This is fine. I kind of wish that I could steal like one of their lightsabers for myself. Not that I think it would like accomplish anything, given that like I'm made of shadows and that's the entire reason that they work on me. I just think that they're cool and I want one. Or several. Yeah, like honestly, that's probably the reason that like swords are like the most common like fantasy type weapon. There are a fair number of alternatives that are, generally speaking, just like better in a lot of ways. But there's something like very heroic about a sword. In like a classical sense. Not necessarily a moral one. Oh, maybe that pulsing thing is where they last knew that I was. Yeah, like realistically, if you want to carry like a weapon that's like actually usable as somebody who hasn't like, who doesn't necessarily have to like train to use it and like stay in particular shape, like an axe or a club is actually typically like just better. Uh-oh. Oh dear. Wait, what? How do you even get me? I got him. Oh well. This is fine. Yeah, carrying like an axe in particular also means that like if you ever need to like, you know, chop wood for like a fire or whatever, you can do that. It's an item with utility beyond just causing violence. The swords are basically only good for hurting people. not sure what happened, but I won, so... Or like, on a similar note, like a dagger. If you're carrying a knife, especially like in a fantasy, like, you know, medieval-ish setting, there's a ton of utility for just, like, having a knife on you. But like, realistically, swords are only good for hurting people. I'm in danger. This is fine. Who are we looking for? Well, that was rude. I just asked a question. Yeah, like you could use a dagger to shave. You could also use a dagger to, like, you know, cut branches for like firewood if you find yourself, you know, under the stars when they come out. You can use them to like butcher an animal if you hunt it. You can use them to like cut ropes. Either like to length to open a to open a package, to like rescue somebody that's been tied up. Meanwhile, as mentioned, swords just kind of are for violence and not much else. Like, violence and ceremony. Like, there's a certain prestige to being, like, a swords person, and it mostly comes down to money. Like, if you can use a sword to hurt somebody, it means that you are so wealthy that you can afford to spend time learning how to use a sword right, as opposed to, like, actually working. Like, it's actually kind of insane, like, how many things in, like, modern culture, like, that have persisted to this day are considered, like, impressive or interesting things purely because at one point they were a sign of wealth, and so nobles were just like, oh, because I can do this and you can't, that means that it's, like, a good thing. I'm in danger. Like, for example, having like a maintained lawn. This one is a bit of a low-hanging fruit because I feel like a lot of people know this one, but like lawns, like you would expect in, like, you know, a suburban, like, front yard or backyard, were originally a way for wealthy people to flex how much land they had. It's like, behold, this gigantic stretch of land that I own, where I have so much money that I can afford to not use it for anything. Like, I can just have this land be here. I don't have to use it to grow anything. You a little sneaky. I was wondering if that guy would notice me. It seems the gigantic shadow dragon is not particularly sneaky. I kind of hadn't paid as much attention to that as one might think I might have. This is fine. Man has generously donated his kidneys to my cause. Uh-oh. We're gonna take our second 5-minute break here. Please use this time to refill your beverage, go to the bathroom, anything that would take you about 5 minutes. I will see you shortly. I return. Okay, so I can parry them killing me with a black hole. Good to know. I'm sure they appreciated the, like, 5-minute long break-ish. Where I wasn't, like, murdering them with black holes and stabs. See, this is all part of my brilliant plan. Like, they're gonna be on the lookout for, like, a master assassin. And then they're gonna see me being, like, the easiest thing to spot since the sun in the sky, and they're gonna be like, it can't possibly be her. Oh, I just realized I'm very low on shadow essence. A quick trip to the bush will correct this. Every now and then, I feel like I've said something that, you know, perhaps is not a sentence that has been said before, and a quick trip to the bush will fix this is one of those moments. Like, it probably has been said, but probably not that many times. I think he spotted me. Nope, never mind. He's pointing at the ground. I just had a silly thought. What if I just, like, went over here and then did this? Oh, I see. Those are what happens when the arrows strike a surface. I thought it might be like an indicator or something. Wait, what? Hold up. Oh, I've got a different, I appear to have a different essence pool for each individual ability. Okay. I wonder if they all get refreshed at once. That potentially changes things. It's like if I eat this guy while I've got the black hole equipped, does that give me something for kunai? No, it doesn't. Okay, I thought that was a global pool. That potentially changes things. Okay, you are also looking like a bot, just saying. This is what stealth looks like. The pinnacle of doing a sneaky. Yeah, I do agree that it's a little bit, it feels a little bit weird to, like, quantify kills and label them, but then, like, seemingly give them all exactly the same value. Like, there's not even, like, a points difference between, like, a normal kill and a stealth kill. But who am I to judge? Uh-oh. I was trying to teleport behind him. It did not work. Technically not the button I meant to push, but we take those. You wanna take a couple steps forward? I'll settle for turning around. Wait, did I just put that on a person's body? Hold on. I did. Can I put that onto a person's body without them noticing is my next question. Hold on. I need to experiment. This could be really funny. I don't... Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, is like, if I can put it on somebody and they don't notice, and then they go to, like, report at, like, a big meeting. That could be really funny. Like, it definitely can go on people. I just don't know if it can do so stealthily. I feel like our roles were reversed with that one, if I'm being entirely honest. It's like, hold on, I'm supposed to be the person who pops out from behind a corner and stabs you in the neck. Alright, I want to try and at least make a little bit of actual progress. We'll see what actually happens, though. My immediate objective does not appear to be particularly far away, so... Oh, that actually would have been like a really nice chance to try and stick somebody without them noticing. Oh well. Oop. Okay, it actually can go on them without them noticing. Oh dear. Like, relatively speaking, like, they noticed something, but they didn't notice enough. And that's an exciting prospect. I can also just have it grab this guy when he comes over to investigate the body. And it gets rid of the body too, one fell swoop. Alright, alright. I'm on board with this. Okay, he just straight up did not notice at all. Alright, alright. Wasn't there like a third person in here? Yes, there was. A bunch of people thought something happened, nobody saw anything happen. I can work with this. I suppose I also technically could have snuck in with that thing. I would say something like, it's all coming back to me, but honestly, I feel like I was never very good at this game. Like, ever. So, It's more like, I'm attaining some level of confidence. And you know what? That's good enough for me. You take those. Aragami, news from Kurosu. We're almost at Sanzenkozubi Lake where the next talisman is. They say that long ago, this land's farmers came here to pray to the gods for rain. Kaiho certainly loved desecrating sacred places. Where was Kurosu? I didn't see him. In this form, I have a telepathic bond with him. Don't you wonder how my apparition speaks to you without any lines? Point taken. Consumed by the bush. Yoink. Can I spend skill points on anything else? Decoy could be nice, as could blinding people. I think the decoy's probably a little bit better. Whether or not I'll actually use it remains to be seen, but it's an option now. Also, I like how this thing's laid out like almost like force powers in a Star Wars game. Like light side powers, dark side powers. And I wonder what it says about me that I've pretty much universally been using dark powers in that example. Oh, whoops. This is fine. Is that cool? Yeah, you're right. Honestly, legit, if Star Wars wasn't a setting where there's like a cosmic force that objectively says that like certain things are objectively good and certain things are objectively bad, I would make the argument that I think that the Sith are more morally upright than the Jedi are. And like, I'm not even being edgy or ironic, I actually sincerely think that. Yeah, the Jedi are also the ones who kidnap children and then indoctrinate them into a militant religious cult. Which is what the Jedi is. They are armed cultists. Meanwhile, the whole thing with the Sith is like, oh yes, like, personal freedom is, like, the greatest good that you can pursue, which is sometimes antisocial when a given individual decides that their greatest freedom involves hurting other people, but, like, out of the box, it's not actually an inherently harmful philosophy. Go check it out. Why are you coming over here? Why not go to the bush? That's where the noise came from. I call shenanigans. I do appreciate that in the timelines where I get caught and get got, I can at least get vengeance. Technically speaking, they aren't killing me. I was there to begin with. Which isn't a spoiler or anything, they literally tell you that as like the first voice line in the game. It's like, you're a reanimated spirit of vengeance. Rude. You think the guy like walks through bushes and then like freaks out at the bush on like a regular basis? Like I just walked through a bush, felt something brush his leg, and then just chopped with his sword. I feel like unless something like licked my hand or whatever, I would just assume it was a branch. Granted, I am a fox, so I may have actually done that. This is fine. I had a dumb idea, but I want to try it. Never mind, window of opportunity has passed. Music must have been in the wind. We give him a pat on the back for a job well done. Y'all want to come over here and investigate all at once, please? All at once, please? Oh. There's like a split second there where I could have gotten all three of them. Okay, I can get two of them. Come on, scoot closer. Please get closer. Like that, yes, thank you. That was more stressful than it needed to be. Oh, rude. I do appreciate that there are boxes, like, everywhere. That's when this nice people left and traveled to Kyoryu. Before that, they worshipped a god of water. I think his name was... Who cares? The only god I'm interested in is the Shadow Empress. They say that she's beautiful. Are you insane? Don't you know why we're doing all this? She's a monster. She killed thousands. Even our leaders couldn't defeat her. They only just managed to trap her. What does that have to do with beauty? Maybe if I ask Captain Hikaru, I can get my clothes swapped and go see the temple. Maybe I'll see her there. There is something wrong with you. Okay, there's a light barrier somewhere. Oh, here we are. Chapter 5, The Great Lake. I guess that means that this is technically set in Canada? Appears to be a knife made out of bone. They placed it on the lake's torii. A good spot, I'll give them that. We'll have to take a little detour. Let's go. Wait a second, Yamiko. Huh? I've been thinking, dangerous have it. What will happen after I rescue you? When you free me, the Empress will be free too. She'll destroy their general in no time, you can count on that. These barbarians aren't very smart. They need someone to tell them what to do all the time. Without the Kaiho general, the tides will turn for our people at last. No, I meant, what'll happen to me? Oh. You summoned me to rescue you and your people, but what happens once I finish the task? Will I just vanish? To be honest, I never thought about it. The ancient texts I've read didn't mention your fate, except that the touch of sunlight releases an Aragami from the corporeal realm. Don't worry. The legends didn't say anything bad will happen. I'll figure something out. I did invoke you after all, right? Right, sorry. It'll be okay, I promise. I need you focused, Aragami. The fate of my people depends on it. I am. Stealth. I can just get on this boat, right? And, like, go over there? Problem solved? I was about to say, this game is reminding me a lot of Sekiro for some reason, but then, like, I thought about it for, like, more than one singular second, and then I'm just like, oh wait. I think I figured it out. I think I know why this game reminds me of Sekiro. There's an assassin nearby. I mean, you're just assuming that, you know? Maybe that guy's Nick just did that. You don't know. He might have spotted me and been, like, actively attempting to fight back, but it still counts as a stealth kill. Somehow. I feel like I wasn't meant to be able to take that. That angle, but I did it anyway. I'm glad that consuming bodies doesn't, like, consume any essence or whatever. Uh-oh. This is fine. We didn't see anything. It's not this easy, somehow. Oh, pardon me, sir. I clearly took a wrong turn. Uh-oh. I got greedy. I wanted to eat him. Well, I'm all the way back here. Unfortunate. Wait. Yeah, I definitely skipped some checkpoints. I'm not supposed to be here, I think. Oh well, this is fine. That or I could have just dropped down from there and been fine. Oh well. This might sound a little bit sociopathic, but I think I kind of really enjoy, like, how blood splatters in this game. There's just something very pleasing about it, and I couldn't necessarily tell you why without thinking about it. Wall scroll looking like an eye exam. Come to think of it, why do they call them eyes when they're shaped like O's? How might somebody get in here? There's a scroll in here, and there's a door here. But, like, how do I get in there? Must I bait somebody into opening it? I can't just swing my sword. Weird. Oh well. Oh. Not looking a gift horse in the mouth? Alright. That guy had every chance to succeed, and he whiffed all of them. And then I got caught. And there was some weird calling going on in the background. That's okay. What a foreseeable outcome. You know what they say the definition of insanity is? No. The definition of insanity is when you try the same thing over and over and, like, don't succeed. Basically, I'm saying is what I'm saying. I look kind of like Batman from this angle, if Batman was like a fox and killed people. Basically, I'm Batman if Batman was like way better in every way. I think I somehow just got like an aerial attack prompt for one of those guys. You didn't need that spine, did you? Well, even if you did, you currently don't, so... Shiny. Oh, that's actually where I was meant to go. Convenient. I didn't have a plan for getting back up, honestly. This is fine. We do a little sneaky, this is fine. I don't know how they're training. Or like, I don't know how they've been training their guards, but like, I really feel like they ought to have been like, doing a better job of it. Like, don't get me wrong, like, they have killed me a number of times, but like... the overall competence levels, I think, perhaps could be, like... subject to peer review. I'll hide behind this gourd. He'll never spot me. Stealth. That's what it looks like. Non-personnel, kid. Teleports behind you. I like how we're going to all this detour because I couldn't be arsed to like paddle a boat like 20 feet. Like that was an offship. Not even close. You've done it. Great job, Aragami. 3 more to go. I'm in danger. Oh, it explodes. Of course it does. How silly of me to assume that it wouldn't. Also, I guess if I die on contact with water, then whoops. Just like paddling with my hand or whatever wouldn't work. I need some shadows to lurk in. This works. Stealth. This is fine. And I even got my kunai back. I also kind of completely forgot that, like, summoning a decoy was an option. But, like, so was murder, so, like, it all worked out, I guess. The only way out is the way we came in. Just keep going straight ahead. Excuse me, sir? Who didn't see anything? Oh dear, that's more people than I thought there were. Goodbye. Where even is the exit? Over there? Oh dear, that's far. That's farther than I thought it was. This is fine. You know, when she said, like, leave the way you came in, I thought we were, like, in front of said exit. This is fine. I'm in danger. Not gonna lie, I cannot believe how much I got away with during all that before I got cut down properly. I really did not deserve to make it that far. I also accidentally skipped some dialogue. It is what it is. I presume it was something about, like, foxes being the most trustworthy animals of all. If it wasn't, I'll just assume that it was. That's the really nice thing about, like, knowing for a fact that, like, your pre-existing, like, notions are objectively correct. You are completely immune to any and all attempts to, like, reason you out of them. Yup. I guess I'll take the stairs. This is fine. What did I just see? How embarrassing. That was you hunting, right? I was in this forest for years. I didn't think that I could return to society. I lived hand to mouth, hunting and rooting about for shelter. Nature is cruel, you know? Those years changed me for good. You're tougher than you look. What did you expect? A helpless princess in a castle? Well, I guess I am pretty helpless now. But just wait until you see me out of this damn prison. If you say so. By the way, isn't it strange that all the talismans are, well, yours? It is. And I can assure you that I don't like it one bit. Especially those Kaiho brutes touching my things. I'll try not to think about it. According to Kurosu, there's only one more talisman to gather before we need to make for the city. I wonder where they put it. I like the aesthetic of this castle. I just like castles and manors in general. What's that place? What the? I don't know what it is, but my people didn't build it, that's for sure. Then who did? The Kaiho? Most likely. Building an ugly thing like that in front of my city? What were they thinking? But it's huge. If it wasn't here before the war, how long have you been in captivity for? I wish I could say. The dirty magic they use has kept us all asleep for a long time, I suppose. Well, hopefully we'll find out sooner or later. Or sooner rather than later. Mausoleum of the Fallen. Alright, it's technically a bit early, and I did technically start a bit late tonight. And I feel a little bit bad, but I think we're gonna call it there. Just seems like a really nice break point. Thank you all so much for joining me. I really appreciate it each and every time. Next scheduled stream is tomorrow. The game is Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. Next time that I'm playing this game in particular will be on Sunday. I hope you have a wonderful night. I hope to see you again. Good night.